Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, a bunch of you guys have said that you miss the stories on the channel. So, I've been chatting to a few bar owners and they've told me some amazing true stories that have happened to them. So, without naming the actual bars, I'll tell you the stories. I'm talking about bar owners. Carlos from Playgirls just sent me a message that tomorrow night, Tuesday the 23rd of July, there's a big party at Playgirls to celebrate his brother Isaac, the DJ's birthday. It should be a great night. So anyway, getting back to the stories, the first story is from John, an English guy in his mid-50s who has been to Pattaya on vacation for about 5 years or more, and he's had a regular Thai girlfriend for about a year named May. Now she's about 40 years old, and she worked freelance at a massage shop in Pattaya. Now for the last 12 months or so, John would come to Pattaya for a month at a time, and May would stop work and stay with John in his hotel for the whole month. And they would do everything together, go everywhere together, and were never separated for the whole month, like true love. Then John would go back to England for a couple of months, and May would go back to work in the massage shop. 2 months later, John came back, and they stayed together again. Now, after about a year of doing this, John decided that he wanted to move to Thailand full time. So he sold his house in England and came to Pattaya, rented a condo for 6 months, and got himself a retirement visa. And he and May moved into the condo together, and everything was great for a while until John got bored doing nothing all the time. So he discussed with May the possibility of opening a bar where they could both work together. He could be the manager and May could be the mama-san. So they started looking for a small bar, which also had an apartment above, and they could rent the bar so that they could live there and finish with the condo. Now, after a couple of weeks, they found a single unit, fairly dilapidated bar, which also had an apartment above, which was going for a very low rent on a 3-year lease. But it needed a lot of work doing, both in the bar and the apartment above. But they decided to go for it, as John had the money from the sale of his house in England, so they could afford to get a builder in and make both the bar and the apartment beautiful. So they went together to the leasing agent and signed the papers and paid the deposit and got the keys. So the next thing was to find a good builder to do all the gutting and the rebuilding of the bar and the apartment. Now luckily May said she knew a good builder who had done a refurbish on the massage shop where she worked. So she called him and he came and met them. And they went through all the work which was needed, and after a couple of days he came back with a quote which seemed reasonable. So they gave him the job, and he got his team down the very next day and started work. John and May would get a taxi down from their condo every day to see how the work was progressing, and it was coming along quite well. Now, after a month, it was nearing completion, including the apartment, and John was due to make the final payment to the builder. But his bank in England refused to release any more funds, as there had been so much transferred to Thailand already, and they suspected some fraud of some sort, and they wanted him to come into the branch in England and speak to the manager to confirm all was legitimate. John was fuming. He just couldn't get the bank to change their mind. So he bought a ticket and he flew back to England the next day. Now in England he straightened everything out with the bank, and they transferred the final payment. and that was sent back to Pattaya to May's bank account, so she could pay the builder and get everything finished. And John thought he may as well spend a few days in England to visit his mother and his sister while he was there. A few days later, he was back in Bangkok, in the airport, and he got a taxi to his new bar in Pattaya and found it all finished and open with May behind the counter. John walked in and said to May, "Is our apartment ready as well? I'll go put my suitcase upstairs." "No, you can't stay here." "Why?" said John. "Because my husband and I are living here in our new bar." At which point the builder stepped out from the kitchen area, stood next to May and put his arm around her. "This is my husband," said May. "You need to go." "But this is my bar," said John. "We signed the lease." The lease was in Thai, and it said that I am the business owner, not you, said May. "You need to leave before I call the police." And that was John's story. And when this happened, I said to John, "Are you okay financially now?" And he said, "Oh, not a problem." He said the bar only cost about 10% of what I sold the house for. So he said it's not really a problem for me financially. It's just extremely annoying that I was taken in, completely taken in, and warn people if they come across a similar situation, just don't do it, just be warned. That's what he said to me to tell you lot. Okay, let's see, move on. There's another story which is about mama sans, and this really shows you just how important it is to have a good mama san in your bar. Now, this is an American guy named Chuck. He decided to open a bar just off Second Road. It was a double unit size bar, and he spent a good amount of money refurbishing it, and it looked good when it was finished. And the next step was to get staff, and he started advertising on Thai Facebook for a mama san and girls. Well, this Thai lady, about 45 years old, answered the advert and came to see Chuck at the bar, and said she was very experienced and also had her own team of 6 girls that she could bring with her as well and start immediately with them, which seemed perfect to Chuck. So she would keep adding new girls as they went along, up to about 25, which was what Chuck wanted. So she started work and brought her 6 girls with her. And the girls all looked acceptable, so the bar opened, and as the days passed, new girls would walk in looking for work, and the girl numbers started to rise to about 15, but never seemed to pass 15, as the new girls would stay for a few weeks and then disappear and go work somewhere else. Chuck couldn't understand why they would only stay for a few weeks. So one day, I walked into the bar for the first time since it opened to see how Chuck was getting on, because I've known him for a while, but I hadn't been to the bar before. Now, I asked the cashier where he was, and she said, "Oh, he's out. He's gone out to buy something. I don't know what time he'll be back." So I turned around to leave, and I was grabbed from behind by a lady who said, "Daz, you're not leaving before you buy me a drink." So I turned around to see a girl I've known for a couple of years at least, from various different bars, and was now more like a friend, if anything. So I said, "Okay." I said, I sat down in the corner, and she ordered herself a San Miguel, and we started chatting for a few minutes. Then the Mama Sam came over and said, did I want to use the guest room. It's only 500 baht. Bear in mind the Mama-san had never seen me before and had no idea that I knew both the owner and the girl quite well. Now Chuck had told me already that the rooms were 400 baht. So I said to Mama-san, I thought the rooms here were only 400 baht. And the Mama-san seemed surprised that I knew the price, and started digging around in her bag and brought out a very battered-looking small square packet, saying, "So you don't want any protection then?" "No," I said, and she left. I turned to the girl I was sitting with and questioned her what had just happened, that she was trying to scam me for 100 baht. And the girl opened up to me because she knows me quite well. She does that with every customer. Then she also said, the Mama-san tries to push customers toward one of her 6 original girls. But if the customer won't take the bait and chooses one of the new girls, then the Mama-san does the negotiations and takes a 500 baht commission from the new girl's ST fee. I left the bar and called Chuck and told him what had just happened, and that he now knew the reason why all the new girls were only staying for a few weeks. The next day, Chuck got one of his friends, who had never been to the bar, to go in as a customer and see what happened. And it was exactly as the girl I knew had said. That evening, Chuck went into the bar and he fired the Mama-san on the spot. And after some arguing, she left, but took all of her 6 original girls with her, leaving only half a dozen new girls and no Mama-san. Luckily, Chuck's girlfriend stepped in as a temporary Mama-san, and as luck would have it, one of his girlfriend's friends, who used to be a Mama-san, had just returned to Pattaya looking for work. Perfect timing. So that is Chuck's story. Interesting, eh? Now the next story is an Australian guy called Ray, who I know, who bought a bar just off Soi Buakhao on a very popular soy, and got a lady manager in early to help with the design and the build of the bar, which all went well. She managed the building of the bar and recruited staff, both bar staff and girls. And very soon the bar was fuller staffed than open. But things gradually started to go awry. Now, one of the customers asked Ray why the guest room wasn't available anymore. Ray checked and found that the room had been taken over that day by 2 of the bar staff who had just moved in. When Ray questioned the manageress, she said that was her son and his girlfriend, who had nowhere to stay, and it wouldn't be for too long. Some time went by, and then another customer complained to Ray that the price of draft beer had gone up, and they were charging more. And when Ray then went to the bar staff, they said, no, the customer's mistaken. By the way, all this happened maybe about a couple of years ago, because then, as the pandemic restrictions were eased, Ray told the staff that the bar was going to stay open for an extra hour. The manageress simply said no. Her family worked long enough hours. And when she said her family, she actually meant it, as half the staff were her family. It seemed like she was trying to take over the bar. That was the last straw, as far as Ray was concerned. The next morning, before any staff arrived and while the son and the girlfriend were still out, Ray changed all the padlocks and locked the place up and put a notice on the door saying the bar was closed until further notice. Then 2 weeks later, he reopened it using his girlfriend as the manager, Mama-san. And she's still there. And bar is now doing very well. So that was Ray's story. Oh dear. If you look directly ahead, you can see the Sanctuary of Truth, which is 500 baht to go in, by the way, but I think it's well worth it because it's something very special. It's all hand carved and absolutely beautiful. Definitely recommend you go look at that. It's not officially a temple, but it's sort of recognized as sort of special, if you know what I mean. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the walk. We can't go any further. So I hope you enjoyed the stories. You did ask me to do stories, and there you go. So tell me if you enjoyed them, okay? And please have a look at Patreon, and some fantastic stuff down there now. You really want to have a look. And thank you for watching, and please subscribe, like, share, ring the bell, and I shall see you on the next video.